Good evening, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the south. Living with a tragic loss, a year on from Shoreham, how one family has learned to cope without a much-loved son.
A night on the town, how trips to the capital can last that bit longer thanks to the new 24-hour tube.
A degree of doubt. What are the prospects for British undergraduates studying in Europe post-Brexit?
It's time to rewind once again with the music festival that's a throwback to the 80s. Good evening. It was supposed to be a fun day out for families to watch air displays and enjoy the sunshine, but it ended in disaster.
It's a year since 11 people were killed when a vintage Hawker Hunter jet crashed onto the A27 during the Shoreham airshow.
Well, as the anniversary fast approaches, families of the victims are still waiting for answers about the chain of events leading up to the crash.
Our reporter Andy Dickinson has been speaking exclusively to the family of Jacob Schilt.
Jacob was fun-loving, enthusiastic for life. He was friendly, happy-go-lucky, but most of all he was absolutely devoted to football.
Just how do you sum up the events of last year?
Bewildering, shocking,
Devastating. And surreal as well.
Yes.
I thought he was on his way to a football match. It never occurred to me that a plane could drop out of the sky onto their car. It's just an outrageous thing to happen.
Have the expressions of love, grief, the flowers on the bridge, have they been a comfort?
The community and what the community did, it was astounding how much feeling there was and how much support we had. And we went to the bridge, several times to look at the messages, and we went to the Public Records Office where they've carefully preserved those messages, which is incredible. And his AFC Shoreham team presented us with the signed shirt, and it is a constant reminder, but it's a lovely one. It's frustrating not being able to have answers, but we completely understand why.
I'd rather have a thorough and careful and correct outcome than a rushed one. There's no point.
And if there are laws that have to be changed, then that's going to take
8 years.
Yeah.
Do you feel you'll ever come to terms with what happened on that day?
No, I don't think so. I think it's
No.
It's something we've got to learn to manage to live with it. But I think
that's not coming to terms with. No. I mean, I think it's just too devastating for a family, because it comes and goes, the grief. I mean, we can be quite cheerful and jolly. We're not going around in a constant gloom, but it can hit you, and it can hit you really quite hard at odd moments. For me, for example, having to drive along the A27, I made a point of doing that, not as soon as possible, but soon afterwards, because I knew that was one of the things that you've got to be realistic about, and you can't wish away the A27. But it hurts every time you go past the spot. Of course it does, But there's loads of things hurt. So it's just, one more little bit. But we haven't cleared his things away in the house because
we can't.
Why?
It would be too painful.
It's too painful.
This whole process is going to take years, we think. So that's the only kind of future that we're looking at the moment. And then it's hard to look ahead and see. All we know is that we need to manage to live with the grief that we are at the moment.
Well, there are details on the memorial events taking place in Shoreham, and of course all the day's news in the south on our website, the address itv.com/Meridian.
In other news tonight, a man has been jailed for life for murdering his girlfriend at a barber shop in Blandford in Dorset. Katrina O'Hara, who was 44, was stabbed to death inside Jock's Barbers on East Street in January, where she worked. 49-year-old Stuart Thomas was sentenced to a minimum of 26 years.
An inquest into the death of a teenage girl at the Boomtown Festival in Winchester has been opened and adjourned. 18-year-old Olivia Christopher from Buckinghamshire was found unconscious in a tent at the festival at the Matterley Bowl on Monday. Police say her death is not being treated as suspicious.
A man is in a critical condition in hospital tonight after a crash outside Southampton General Hospital. Emergency services were called to Tremona Road yesterday afternoon. A 72-year-old man from North Baddesley who was driving a blue VW Golf suffered life-threatening injuries. Police say no other car was involved.
More than 250 Southern Rail staff are voting on whether to take strike action in a dispute about ticket office closures and job losses. The result will be announced on the 2nd of September. The TSSA union says Govia Thameslink plans to close or partially shut more than 80 ticket offices, axing more than 40 staff. While GTR say its focus is on resolving immediate issues on the service.
Now, those of us who travel by train for an evening out in London will know the hassle of rushing to catch the last service home at night.
Well, for anyone who needs to use the London Underground, that's a problem of the past. From tonight, services will run 24 hours a day on Fridays and Saturdays.
Our transport correspondent Mike Pearce has more.
It's taken 3 years for Transport for London to introduce the first all-night tube service, following protests about pay and safety from the unions. But tonight it arrives on parts of the Victoria and Central lines, with a train every 10 minutes on the busiest sections. It will run on Friday and Saturday nights with other lines to follow. Some are now calling for later mainline services on the busiest rail lines outside the capital.
We go out in London at the moment on like a Friday night and either have to get a taxi back, book a hotel or the first train back in the morning, and obviously that's not really ideal, so it kind of puts you off going to London for nighttime events really.
More late trains would definitely help because buses they run until about 20 to 11.
There are probably other people who commute from Reading to London daily, so they might find it useful.
For people in our region, one big benefit will be later tubes to mainline stations to take people back home to our region on the last trains. For those who drive to the edge of London, of course, there'll be later tube services to get them home as well. There's also pressure for the new Crossrail service to operate around the clock at weekends.
What this is about is helping people get to work, doctors and nurses, porters, security guards, but also getting people to and from the theatre, to live music venues.
The success of the night tube will be keenly watched, but for many it's an overdue addition to the transport network. Mike Pearce, ITV News.
So no more late night panics. Now you are watching ITV News in the Meridian region. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Coming up, Simon with the weekend weather forecast and what we might ask, I know I'm asking, has happened to the summer.
Indeed, plus why the sun could be setting on the way we plan our holidays.
But of course, for more on all of our stories, do go to itv.com/Meridian. Any views or news you have, why not give us a call on 0808 1010 095. You can also get in touch with us via Facebook. If you prefer, do send us a tweet.
Now, yesterday was a big day for students when they got their A-level results. University will inevitably be the next step for many of them, but post-Brexit, will they still be able to study abroad?
Increasing numbers of undergraduates have been choosing to continue their studies at universities in Europe, and sometimes they don't have to pay anything.
But if fees rise significantly once we're no longer EU citizens, could a foreign education soon be out of reach? Here's Melissa Wright.
Europe's universities are some of the best in the world, increasingly attractive to British students. They're tempted abroad by lower or no tuition fees, cheaper living costs and the chance to travel. That's what led A-level student Katie to look at studying abroad. She's applied for university in Amsterdam after falling in love with the city while on holiday.
I think ultimately I would like to live and work abroad, so it makes sense that actually I just move abroad to begin with and start living, my own life in a different country, which I can then, move from there to get other jobs, maybe stay in Holland.
She's not alone. The number of British students going abroad to Europe for their full degrees has increased significantly over the last decade. 10 years ago, the University of Southern Denmark had just 7 British undergraduates. Now they have 5 times that number. Poznan University in Poland, popular for medicine and dentistry, has seen its number of British students rise from 7 to 42. Over in the Netherlands, Utrecht University now has triple the number of British undergraduates compared to a decade ago, while Maastricht University has seen a dramatic rise. There were just 15 British full-time students in 2005. Now there are almost 300. But could a potential British exit from the EU stop the trend? Fees and funding for students abroad could be set to change.
There are going to be implications and changes perhaps to the fees that they'll be charged, entitlement to any support when they get their financial support, for example. So the big change, I guess, is the money.
In some cases, Brexit wouldn't increase costs for British students. In Germany, there have been no tuition fees since 2015, and that's no matter where you come from, in or out of the EU. But in the Netherlands, EU students pay less than €2,000 or £1,700 a year, whilst for those from outside the EU, courses start at triple that and can cost more than £12,000 for a year's tuition. Over in Denmark, meanwhile, if you're from the EU, you don't pay any tuition fees at all. But other international students pay anything from £5,000 to £10,000 per year. In Sweden, meanwhile, British students would currently study for free. But once we leave the EU, 1 year's tuition could cost more than £6,000. But not everyone thinks Brexit would harm students' prospects. One Leave campaigner believes there's more to the world of universities than Europe.
There's a whole world out there, not just the European Union. And actually, when you look at the league tables for the best universities in the world, we're the only country in the EU that's actually got five universities in the top 30. And nothing's going to change for probably 2.5 years at minimum, and it'll all be subject to negotiation.
And foreign universities with ties to the UK want to keep the relationship going. In Valencia in Spain, they have connections with universities across the country, and they're keen to keep it that way.
The UK is a good partner of us, not only a good partner, it's a good friend of us. And we belong to the same, we say, academic family. So we hope that we can keep, after these negotiations, the level of contact with them.
For dentistry graduate Karen Deep, venturing to Europe offered him the chance to follow his dream of becoming a dentist after missing out on a place in the UK.
I'm so grateful for having the opportunity to go to Poland to get my degree, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be here today as a graduate of dentistry. I wouldn't have had that chance. All I can say is do it. It's such a benefit to yourself, your career, your outlook on things. It makes you a more worldly person.
The EU referendum may be over, but the negotiations about how we leave have barely started. It will take years to understand just how British students will fit into the European jigsaw. Melissa Wright, ITV News.
So we wait to see, and it's not just students who are contemplating spending time abroad, although we are still in the middle of the holiday season. Many of us will soon be planning next year's break.
I know I will be after today's rain. Yeah. But the way we go about it is changing. It seems we're less keen on thumbing through those glossy holiday brochures and more inclined to go online instead.
So, as a top travel company announces it's to phase out its brochures in favour of a computer-based system, Matt Price looks at the consequences and what might mean for the future of our high street travel agents.
The travel agents take up the offensive.
The days of leafing through that holiday brochure.
Hurry, 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 otherwise every plane will be full.
On a dark winter's night, it made that summer sunshine trip seem a little closer. Pages and pages of exotic locations sent us rushing to the travel agents.
In these days, nearly everybody is a traveller once a year.
This is Torremolinos on the Costa del Sol, a hit with tourists since the 1930s. And while Brits still flock here today, the way in which they seek out a bargain is changing.
Through the internet. Yeah, it's just easy. Just get online, find something.
They see the accommodation, you see the beach, what's going on around, sort of thing. Yeah, more information basically.
Do you still flick through a holiday brochure, or is that kind of gone? It's all online.
No,
Internet.
never. Always online, and we search around for the cheapest deal, don't we?
It's true, the holiday brochure has served us well over the years, with its glossy pages full of far-flung destinations. But it seems its days are numbered, with more of us browsing and booking online, using tablets or even our mobile phones. And back at home, it's tour operator Thompson which is leading that change. New high-tech stores are replacing brochures, which they're planning to phase out by 2020.
If you want to click onto our browse map function.
And it's packed to the rafters with touch screens and interactive maps.
You know, we do get customers that are asking for brochures, and we do have a limited amount of brochures in the store, but then we have customers that have embracing the digital revolution, and because it has been revolutionised, you know, we've got a lot of technology in store that we can use to bring the customers' in-store experience to life.
So you can see there, it's playing a short video.
Anwen and Caitlin have dreams of a far-flung trip overseas, and a chance to build their holiday using new tech has left them inspired.
Yeah, I don't think you can get a lot of depth from holiday brochures. You need to see more footage and to get a feel of what the holiday would be like.
It was fun because you could pick what holiday you wanted.
An industry study supports a change in how we research and book our travel plans. Last year, only 17% of us used a high street travel agent for our breaks abroad. Almost twice as many turned to a travel agent online. And in the digital world, the PC or laptop remains ever popular. They were used in 91% of online bookings. So is there a concern that one day those high street stores could be sent packing too?
Absolutely not. This is about investing in new technology, it's about investing in videos, it's about investing in lots of photos and giving it both to our customers and to our experts in store.
And suddenly the world seems full of sunny places.
Our desire to travel remains, and the traditional high street travel agent looks set to stay. But it seems the sun may well have set on the holiday brochure as we know it. Matt Price, ITV News.
There you go.
Yeah, you know, I don't remember the last time I actually looked at a holiday brochure.
No, me neither. But that big screen looks a bit too technical for me.
Well, I'd go online, it's terrible.
I'll have to ask for your help, I think.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
dear.
Well, time now for a quick look at what's making the national news headlines. Now to London, Alistair Stewart.
Joy for Jade at the Rio Olympics as she wins gold in Taekwondo. Big scores and big celebrations as she retains the title she first won at the London Games. Bolt bags an 8th gold, but not a record. There may be one tonight, though, as he goes for his 9th. Here, police investigate as a dog kills a little boy. A woman is arrested. And the return of Ratty, how voles are being gently reintroduced to the British countryside. Join Ranveer Singh and me at 6:30.
We certainly will. Now, Luke, do you want the good news or the even better news?
The good news.
Good news. It's Friday.
What's the better news?
Better news. Sport now with Juliet Fletcher.
Hello, well, we start tonight with the GB women's hockey team, who for the first time in their history will play in an Olympic final this evening. They face the Netherlands in their gold medal match. A number of the squad are from our patch, and as Louise Lewis now reports, they've been on quite the journey.
4 years of intensive training at Bisham Abbey, and it's paid off for Great Britain's women. The squad are unbeaten in Rio and just one match away from winning gold. Reading trio Alex Stanson and Kate and Helen Richardson-Walsh will be among the lineup to face the Netherlands tonight. So have they got what it takes to beat the defending champions?
Yes. Yeah, I'm really confident in the squad, really confident in the girls that they can go do a job. Danny's done a great job tactically in the build-up and over the game so far. So yeah, I feel really confident that they can do it.
Having won bronze in 1992 and 2012, the women will be hoping to replicate the success of the men's team, who won gold in 1988.
They need to just keep their cool and just treat it as another game. There's the experience and the quality within the squad that they can manage that and go and do a job this evening.
Other names to watch out for tonight are Maddie Hinch, Sam Queck, Shona McCallin and Nicola White, who all play for Holcombe. Canterbury's Susanna Townsend and East Grinstead's Laura Unsworth and Sophie Bray. Pushback is at 9 o'clock. Louise Lewis, ITV News.
On the water, Britain is the top performing Olympic sailing nation, and that's official. Golds for Giles Scott in the Finn class, Hannah Mills and Saskia Clark in the women's 470, and Nick Dempsey's windsurfing silver means we've beaten the rest of the world at 4 out of the last 5 Olympics. Football now, and Southampton are in action later this evening at Manchester United, for whom £90 million signing Paul Pogba will be making his debut. Saints, who drew their opener with Watford, have won on their last 2 visits to Old Trafford. The unsettled Jose Font is set to start, with the manager unconcerned about the transfer speculation that is suggesting Jose Mourinho wants to buy him.
He's a good professional. I think also no, he cannot be disturbed for this story and this rumor. For me, it's just a rumor. Just a surprise to see this against United and 2 days before, but it's not a problem.
Bournemouth play on Sunday when they take on West Ham at their new home in the Olympic Stadium, the former Olympic Stadium. Manager Eddie Howe is set to give a debut to new signing and former loanee Mark Wilson, who joined from Stoke. He says the biggest threat for the Cherries is likely to come from the Hammers' target man Andy Carroll, who's hoping to catch the eye of his former boss Sam Allardyce and win his way back into the England squad. In the Championship, free-scoring Brighton take on Reading. They'll be looking to maintain the form that's seen them hit 10 goals in their last 3 games, and they have yet to concede any. It's that defensive record which manager Chris Hughton says is vital to any promotion challenge. Despite Reading losing heavily at Newcastle on Wednesday, he believes the Royals are better than their league position shows.
They've got good players, you know. When you go through their starting lineups, they've got certainly at this level very good players. So at some stage, I do expect them. I expect them to pick up on results. We hope it's not on Saturday, but I do expect them to pick up results.
For Reading, it's a chance to bounce back after being on the wrong end of that defeat in the North East. Jaap Stam said that wasn't a fair reflection on their share of the play, but Brighton are set to be just as big a test. The Royals could hand the debut to Sandro Visa, who's joined from Swiss club FC Thun. On to League One now. Swindon take on Port Vale at the county ground. They've boosted their ranks by signing former Aston Villa striker Nathan Delfonso from Blackburn. Oxford host big spending Peterborough. The message from coach Michael Appleton to his players and fans: we've got to get the basics right. That perhaps fairly obvious following successive defeats so far. And in League Two, Crawley brought in 18 players this season in a bid to revive the club's fortunes. And some had predicted they would struggle for cohesion early on, but they've surprised those critics and are unbeaten so far. Tomorrow's opponents, Barnet, are also undefeated, so it should be a good test of how far the Reds have progressed. It's early days in the new season, but Portsmouth are at the wrong end of the table already. They brought in 13 players over the summer, and unlike Crawley, they haven't yet gelled. Manager Paul Cook is urging fans to give his team time as they face Colchester. And finally from me, the conditions are never exactly the best for cricket, but this year they're even worse. The annual Bramble Bank match in the middle of the Solent between Royal Southern Yacht Club and the Cowes-based Island Sailing Club, due to take place on Sunday, has been postponed because of a grim weather forecast. It's hoped to rearrange the fixture for the next suitable low tide in 4 weeks' time. And that's from me. We'll have all the weekend sports action in our programme on Monday.
Thanks, Jules. And we'll have more on the weekend weather for you, of course, in just a moment from Simon. And it will be of particular interest to thousands of festival fans heading to the Rewind events this weekend.
It was, of course, the decade that brought us the Rubik's Cube, Space Invaders and oversized mobile phones. Do you remember those? Probably not. But the spirit of the 80s lives on as thousands of people descend upon Henley.
My first mobile phone was a bit like a brick. This year's acts include Jimmy Somerville, Adam Ant, your old favourites, and the ever-popular Rick Astley. Kerry Johnston went along for a sneak preview.
He's the man of the moment. With millions of worldwide record sales, downloads and a new #1 album, Rick Astley is back in town. He and artists like Tony Hadley from Spandau Ballet may have made it in the 80s, but are continuing to make their mark today and will be headlining at Henley this weekend.
I do think that it was quite a unique decade in terms of music and fashion, and it was probably the last decade where that really was kind of completely linked. Just a really unique decade, and great songs. Not all of them, but a lot of them were fantastic songs.
Songs which the fans come to see played live year after year, even when the heavens begin to open.
We love Rewind, we come every year, and we love the rain. And
it just brings back many memories, back from the good old days. Proper music.
Don't stop me now, don't stop me now, good time, I don't want to stop at all.
Well, this is the main stage behind me here at Rewind. You can see they're getting ready with all the lights and the equipment, but in front here, this is where 40,000 fans in total over the weekend will be coming to enjoy the spirit of the 80s.
They come as everything from Smurfs through to the A-Team. So, you know, you go out there, it's the most colourful audience you'll ever see.
And their spirits won't be dampened by the weather as they go back to the future for a dose of 80s nostalgia. Kerry Johnston, ITV News, Henley.
Wow. Brings back memories. Oh, I loved a bit of Spandau Ballet. Were you a Spandau Ballet fan, Simon?
Well, to cut a long story short, no. But back in the 80s, of course, we all had bad hair. And with the weather this weekend, we're all going to have bad hair when we relive the 80s. So it's kind of, it's like it's moved on in the right direction.
That's something.
But forget that.
Okay.
Got a quiz for you. Lousy day of weather today to cheer you up. Some gorgeous pictures and the question, sunrise or sunset. Are you ready?
Let's give it a go.
Okay, here's the challenge. First picture, lovely sky here over Portsmouth from Lee Cox. What do you reckon?
That is a sunrise.
It is a sunrise. Very good, very good. Andrew Pass, somewhere on the south coast, thought he'd spotted a badger running over the treetops. Turned out to be a weather vane, by the way. But what do you reckon? Sunset, yeah. Going very well so far, 2 out of 2. Now, here's a clever picture of the taking of the picture from Karen in Sandbanks.
Sunset?
No, sunrise. Always a treat when the sky matches your heather, and lucky for Lavinia Asquith in Burley that it did on this day.
We're going for sunrise.
Yeah, no, it's a sunset.
Oh, no.
And you got to love a misty Corfe Castle. This from Richard Murgatroyd.
That is definitely sunrise.
It is definitely sunrise. 3-2 at the minute.
Yeah.
Oh,
so a clever bit of
isn't it?
foreground flower action at Reading Sailing Club in Sonning from Darren Bull of Wokingham. What do you think?
Sunset.
Sunset is right. 4 points. So you beat me good and proper.
We pulled it back at the end.
Yeah, you did very well. But then with your insider knowledge, Luke, you should have known.
Of course, yeah. But, you know, you're the experts.
That's not true, anyway.
And here he is, ITV's best weatherman. It's Simon Parkin.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
So can you guess from the subtle clue in this picture what might be the main feature of this weekend's weather? Yep, tricky to avoid a bad hair day because it's going to get very, very windy as an area of low pressure works its way north and eastwards. Unseasonably strong winds tomorrow and a Met Office weather warning. Sunday still breezy, but more in the way of sunshine, fewer showers around. Definitely the better of the 2 days. For tonight, a lot of clear skies, mild temperatures 14, 15, perhaps an isolated shower towards the coast, but an increasingly strong wind, and that warning tomorrow. We could see gusts of around 50 to 60 miles an hour along the coast. Could be very choppy seas, bit of transport disruption. Inland over the higher ground, very gusty winds too. A lot of outdoor activities this time of year, so expect some sort of changes. Plus, we've got the blustery showers. We'll all see a shower at some point, but in amongst them, there'll be some dry and fine moments, although even in the best of any sunshine with that wind, highs of 20 or 21 won't feel especially warm. High tide times in Bognor just before 1 in the morning, 25 past 1 in the afternoon, and then Sunday, like I say, the better day of the 2.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
So a really soggy Saturday. Well, in just a moment, the ITV Evening News with Alistair Stewart and Ranveer Singh.
I'll be back with the late news at 10:30. Try and join me if you can. But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks very much for watching. Have a lovely evening, a great weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.